Well, you have so much to try and make sense of in your life, and I don't know about you, but often when I get to the end of a long week, I start to remember the things I wanted to get back to, the stories I wanted to explore, and the outstanding questions that I had about something that I didn't understand that I meant to fact check. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and on This is Manitoba, we're going to do it for you. In 20 minutes or less, every week, one question that matters to your life here in our province that you'd like answered or explored. And if you spend any time around the province this week, then you might know that today our question is about wildfires. You could have probably guessed that. We have fires burning around the province. We have not seen a wildfire situation quite like this before. For May long weekend in Manitoba, we have provincial parks that will be entirely closed, as we have hundreds of people who are out of their homes. So the question is, upon hearing all of this information this week and the stories that we've been absorbing, how should you be notified if your home is threatened by a wildfire? Let's start with Glenda Gould. She says she got no notification. She's one of the hundreds of people in the arm of Lac du Bonny who was displaced because of fires. She is in an area of the province of Manitoba where 2 Manitobans lost their lives after they got trapped. Glenda says she spent her last moments in her home sitting and waiting for some kind of notice it was time to leave. The fire and smoke grew closer. She says the warning, though, never came. So she and her husband made their own decision to leave. She wants the province and the rural municipality to do a better job with warning. Here's our conversation. Hi there, Glenda.
Good morning.
So take me to sitting and waiting for this. I mean, were you seeing smoke, smelling smoke?
Yes, we had been fighting all day. We were watering our lawn, trying to keep the ground wet because it's tinder dry. We could see flames probably a quarter mile from us and smoke as the fire was going northwest, or it was moving northwest. Then about 8 o'clock at night, the wind switched to the north and the smoke just came down like a fog, just dropped. And so at about 10, we decided that it was too smoky to stay and we left.
Where specifically is your house located?
We're at the end. You're on Langston Way. We are at the end of Langston Way where it meets Highway 433.
So you're in the
right in the middle of the fire zone.
Yeah, you're right in that middle of I was going to say the heart of the fire zone, in the RM, in the rural area. What have the last few days been like for you? How are you feeling? You managed to get out.
I'm feeling very anxious, feeling very displaced. I've had to move twice, which has been challenging. And my husband has stayed behind in the town of Lac du Bonny, and I've come to Winnipeg last night.
How is your house doing? Do you know?
Last night I was told when emergency management actually came to the door where I was staying and said we had to leave, that it was still standing, which I'm very grateful for.
So your first place when you left home, that you left to, you were then had to evacuate from there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you're in Winnipeg. Tell me what kind of notification you were hoping for that you would get or you were expecting.
I was expecting actually someone to come to the door and say it was time to leave, or the phone to go off through the emergency notification service that we've subscribed to. That's what I was expecting. So instead, it didn't happen. Nobody came to the door later and said, you need to evacuate. It's time to go.
What do you mean the emergency notification system that you'd subscribe to? Is that a local service, or are you talking about the one that pops up on our phone provincially?
No, the RM of Lac du Bonny has set up I believe it's called Contact. I could be wrong about that. And they're supposed to notify you when there is emergencies. We've received it before, like if there's been a tornado warning, we get this is the emergency services, but it didn't happen this time.
The RM does say they're putting evacuation notices on their website and Facebook page. How does that sit with you?
I would say that should be a secondary notification service, because not everybody has Facebook. not everybody, we were busy outside trying to keep the place, wet. And I didn't have time to look on my Facebook. I don't have time to look on my emails on my phone. The power went out at 4 o'clock. So, there was no, other than my phone, there was no other ability to get online or look at any media. So I think that I would like to see that they improve that service so that everybody gets a notification as they need to.
I want you to hear something that Premier Wab Kinew said as part of a wider issue here, because he was asked during the news conference yesterday live about alerts and why there wasn't an emergency alert system used during the wildfire evacuation orders, from the provincial perspective here. Here's what he said.
That is a tool that has been part of the discussion of being used. When we talk about the response, we're talking about following a plan that has been set up and drilled and practiced. And because of that prep work, we don't necessarily want to change, I guess, the MO unless there's a serious, call for that to happen. So I can tell you that the idea of putting out an emergency alert was part of the discussions that we've had. But in the first instance, we go with the plan that's been drilled locally.
What do you think of that response that, that they are discussing how to move forward and do better, but they went to the plan in place?
I think it's a learning opportunity. It should have been more in the forefront. I think we rely far too much on things like Facebook and email, and not everybody has that. And so if that is what was decided, I don't know in the plan, the emergency plan, what was decided that they were going to use as their primary notification, I think they better consider, in my opinion, that it would be better to use the phone alert than any other form as your initial notification service. I wasn't the only one who said that they didn't get a notification to evacuate.
Do you let your mind go to what could have happened should you and your husband not made your own decision to leave at 10 o'clock after, you said your power went out at 4, the smoke, you're watering the lawn. Do you let your mind go there?
I can't. I can't right now. It's too upsetting. I think that maybe later when I can really sit down and process all that has happened, I might have that. But like I had said, I'm so grateful for everything that everybody has done. We've got fabulous neighbors, and even though they were supposed to evacuate, a couple of them stayed and they kept an eye on our place. And we were just really, really lucky, I think. Really lucky that our place is still standing when so many have lost their homes, their livelihoods, and that couple have lost their life.
Do you know when you can go back home, Glenda?
No. Last night an alert came on. Again, the phone rang, but I couldn't hear it. It didn't work. But they said zone 1, which, again, not posted what zone 1 was. That would be better to be clarified, that they had a map, that you knew what zone you were in. And but some nice person put it up there, and so we could see what zone it was, and it wasn't ours. We're not allowed back.
Just last, what's the first thing you're going to do when you go back home? If all goes well here and, you're going back home, everything's good there, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Just, you know what, you've got to start the cleanup process. Everything smells like severely of smoke. I'm going to take a deep breath and be blessed that our house is still standing, and we'll help whoever needs help, and we'll do whatever we need to pull together as family, friends, and the community.
Thank you for being with us live on CBC, Glenda. All the best.
Thank you.
Glenda Gould is a Manitoba wildfire evacuee from the RM of Lac du Bonnet. Well, CBC did reach out to the Manitoba government for comment, and a spokesperson said, quote, evacuation orders are managed at the local level and the process varies depending on the community and the situation, end quote. Well, the question on the podcast today is, should the process vary, or should we have something more streamlined to keep people safe? The reeve for the RM of Lac du Bonnet is Lauren Schenkel. He acknowledges that there is work to do. His line to CBC was an honest evaluation, quote unquote, is what is needed moving forward about how the municipality manages evacuation orders with the province. He also stressed notifications are always updated online. But as you heard Glenda say, not everyone is on Facebook, for example. Here's more from Reeve Lauren Schenkel. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. I know you were listening in to what Glenda said. She said she's grateful, but she thinks there's room to do better here. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement, certainly. And I listened to her comments, and my heart goes out to her if she feels that way. But I must say that this was a very fluid situation once we started on this. The fire apparently got called in initially at around 9:10. Our department responded. And then I attended the scene where they were fighting already off of Old Point Road. And at that time, I notified the conservation because I had spoken to the fire chief, Earl Simmons, who was out in the paw on another fire. And at the end of the day, we immediately had 2 water bombers there. As the fire progressed, we certainly realized, as did Wildlife Fire Services, the provincial, that this was going to be a very terrible situation. We ended up issuing the first evacuation order at 12:16, and it was a fluid situation. Right after that, we continued to issue orders as we were instructed. And I have to say that we do not determine when those evacuation orders are issued. It's done through the fire services, the province, in consultation with emergency measures.
So that's a problem. That's a problem, though. I'm going to interject because the premier has said, the province has said evacuation orders are managed at the local level. So that is RMs, and you're saying you have to wait for the province to. But this is something to learn from. This, if the province you're waiting for the province to give evac orders, and they're looking to you to manage it. There's a gap there.
If I can say that we issue the order, but it's based on that informational chain that we have. That unfortunately, that's the way it needs to happen. They're the specialists when it comes to this fire. The office of the fire commissioner, all our local departments were out there at that time, immediately engaged. Yep. But at the end of the day, certainly. There's going to be, and when I talked yesterday and you quoted me on this, there's going to be an evaluation and a critique after this whole incident is finally dealt with. And if we can do things better, certainly that's going to be put in motion. We've been very progressive here when we talk about the fire situation. We've had the wildfire program in place where we've gone out, our emergency measures people have gone out on the fronts of cottage associations to say, look, it's not when, if it's going to happen. It's when a fire occurs here. And This was the worst case scenario.
Yep.
And we've been preparing for that for several years.
I want to interject just to say something here. I think everyone, including me, appreciates that you're trying to communicate during an active crisis, even one that continues while we're speaking here, Reeve Schenkel. What I want to understand moving forward, just for the people that are listening that are concerned, about getting communication, is the system. So, are most things on Facebook, or do you think that there's room to do more of that? She was mentioning that you do have a system that could be local emergency alert. I think she was calling it Contact. Did you connect?
It's actually, it's the former Code Red program. That is now the program that we utilize is called Connect. And that's where our emergency measures personnel would have been pushing out notifications to as they occurred.
Okay, so that notification would have just come later because, as you're saying, they were dealing with the fire.
It would have been pushed out at the same. It would have been pushed out at the same time through the emergency measures personnel.
But around midnight, you said 12:16.
No, this was 12:16 when the first evacuation order was issued, and that would have been pushed out through our emergency measures personnel.
Okay,
through the Connect program.
How worried are you that some people then didn't get it? And say they don't have Facebook, and so they didn't know.
I guess we also sent people door to door, but you have to understand the ferocity of this fire when it started moving. And it was jumping through the treetops. It was moving so quickly, but at the end of the day, we were putting out the evacuation orders based on how the fire was progressing. And if the Connect program failed, there'll be an analysis of that at the end of the day. And if we can do something better, certainly. We were talking about a critique yesterday, and that'll involve right from the top level to the bottom. And if we can improve somewhere, we're going to certainly do that. Our hearts go out to the people that feel that, we've failed them in some fashion, particularly the families of the ones that lost their families here. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. And if we can improve in some fashion, we'll certainly do that.
And just last to what we're talking about alerts moving forward, the Premier says they're looking at the emergency alert system. They said it wasn't used, it is in the discussions. Could you have benefited from that? If they did put their overall system and use that?
I think that anything that benefits communication, I've done a number of interviews on this, obviously, and I thank the media too for what you do, because that gets the information out to the public that's fresh and active. So we all can work better when it comes to emergency situations like this. And I thank all of the media outlets for what they've done on this important issue, because at the end of the day, it'll all be a critique. I talked today to our deputy CAO, and we're going to be taking the good and the bad comments, even from social media. That'll be part of that fulsome, review once this critical incident is done.
We'll leave our discussion there. Thank you very much for the update and for responding to some of the concerns your citizens have raised. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
That is the Reeve of the Arm of Lac du Bonny, Lauren Schenkel. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Manitoba. And of course, our podcast today was very much about a situation that continues to be a challenge all across Canada. So if you have a story to share with us, you can always write to our radio email at CBC, radio893@cbc.ca. And if you found value in what you heard today on the podcast, please don't forget to like and share.